take a look at how to interpret and understand Mars in Cancer, which is significant because Cancer is the debilitation or the fall from Mars. As always, what you do is you look for the synergies. In other words, you look for the areas where the planet and the sign are talking about the same thing, but they may be talking about it in the same way or in opposing ways. And when they talk about the same thing in the same way, you get good results. And when they talk about the same thing in opposing ways, you get conflicts. So with Mars and Cancer, right at the root of what both of them symbolize, there's a big, gigantic contradiction. Because Mars at the root talks about masculinity. Mars is the masculine planet, especially Mars is the youthfully masculine planet. Whereas Cancer is not only the female sign, but it's the mature female sign. So you have a clash here on both of these aspects. The planet of masculinity is in an environment of femininity. It's not going to be able to do what it likes to do because it's surrounded by energy and resources that don't facilitate it. And the planet of youthful masculinity is furthermore in the sign of mature femininity. So there's a youth maturity clash, there's a masculine feminine clash. So this is why Cancer is a tough place for Mars. This is why it's been described as the debilitation for Mars or the fall for Mars. You don't really have to squeeze out interpretations from this low-level clash between Mars and Cancer because all of the higher-level stuff that's more easy to visualize will also clash as a result of the roots clashing. So, for example, let's look at the first example. I would say it would be good to look at the fact that Mars is the planet of independence and Cancer is a sign that signifies the home or the domestic cooperative place, the family place. So here's one way in where the youthful masculinity of Mars clashes with the mature femininity of Cancer. And what you expect from it is this native who has Mars and Cancer, they probably don't have a sense of home. So they feel unsettled and they're unsettling types of people. They aren't the type of individual that calms things down. They're the type of individual that brings things up. They're not one that goes for settling down. They're one that goes more for adventuring, but not in necessarily the easiest or the greatest or the most smooth way. The people who are born with Mars and Cancer, since they don't really have a sense of home, then they tend to be a wandering type. That's part of their basic nature is that they wander a lot. It will be physical wandering. It will be other kinds of wandering as well. They like to move frequently. They don't like to stay for a long time on one thing. They don't like to stay for a long time in one place. They move a lot. They move homes a lot. They shift their bases around. They won't even really have a home. They'll have a base. And they'll shift their bases and they'll go over here and work from there for a while and then go over here and work over here. And all because they actually have other things on their mind besides settling down and being domesticated. Now, let's look at another way where the basic youthful masculinity of Mars clashes with the mature femininity of Cancer. This would be in the fact that Mars is passionate and Cancer is desire. Now, that might seem like it's in the same page. That's talking about the same thing. But it's not really. So let me take a bit to explain it. Cancer is about feelings, desires, and opinions, and emotions. These things, when they're healthy, they're stable and consistent. The unhealth in feelings, desires, and emotions is when they're inconsistent, unpredictable, and unstable. Mars, being passionate, is a destabilizer. The male nature is to destabilize. The female nature is to stabilize. So male nature is described as inceptive, which means catalytic. It gets things started. It starts the pregnancy. Whereas Cancer is not really receptive of things starting. Cancer is settling things down, keeping things formed, keeping things steady. So, with Mars in Cancer, the effect that it has upon the emotions is, basically speaking, the person becomes very passionate. So basically, Mars in Cancer is a very passionate person. So this will mean that their opinions and their emotions are very strong and quickly change. They strongly oscillate and they strongly change between what they want, who they want it from, where they want it, how they want it. It will also give another sense of passion, which is a huge appetite. They have a big appetite, so they can be described as hungry people, which means ambitious people, which may work out well under good circumstances. But very unresting. This also goes with the fact that they're not homey or domesticated. They don't settle. They also don't rest well. Mars in Cancer or Mars in the 4th house doesn't have a quality of being a good sleeper. It doesn't rest well because it's so ambitious and hungry, and it keeps its thoughts on what it wants. One further way in which the basic youthful masculinity of Mars clashes with the basic mature femininity of Cancer is in this concept of masculinity is courageous and extroversive. Masculinity directs itself outward. Femininity is shy, so it's introversive, it's pulling things in. So here you have a planet, Mars, whose agenda is to be extroversive and courageous and bold and adventurous, coming into Cancer, who provides resources not for being extroversive and adventurous and bold, but rather for being introversive, shy, or compelling. So this clash results in natives who have an extroversion-introversion issue, or a courage-shyness issue. Fools rushing in where angels fear to tread. Exhibitionism, the need to be heard, the need to be seen. Now let's look at some actual people who have Mars in Cancer who are well known, who you know the personalities. Two interesting ones are Lionel Messi and Zinedine Zidane. I don't know if I pronounced that name right. I don't even know who this person is, but one thing that I know from the internet is that they play soccer professionally. So you got two professional soccer players. It's kind of a little bit weird for Mars to be in debilitation. Nonetheless, a sportsman must have these basic qualities. They must be not sleepy. They must be not restful. They must be not domesticated. They must not be settling down in one place. They must be really hungry and passionate and have a need to win and conquer and be seen and be known and be the best. So it's not too much of a stretch to see how Mars in Cancer does lend itself towards athletes if it's under the right condition. And it would be interesting to see Lionel Messi's chart. We'll take a look at it in a second to see what those conditions are. Other interesting people or well-known people with Mars in Cancer: Robin Williams, Keanu Reeves, Halle Berry. See a consistent effect that Mars in Cancer has in female charts. Halle Berry kind of starts it off. Cardi B. Cardi B also has Venus in Scorpio. Cardi B, Miley Cyrus, Pink, Dolly Parton even. Then Lana Del Rey, who's interesting. We'll look at her chart as well in a little more detail. Audrey Hepburn, RuPaul, and even Mozart. So you could see the effect that it has in women is it's really emboldening them and not letting them settle into typical female roles. They're going to come out and be braver and bolder and more in your face and more expressive than the typical classical social norm female. Another group of people, other types of artists: Pablo Picasso. We looked at his chart in more detail in another video. Shakespeare, Stephen King, Jiddu Krishnamurti. Warren Buffett, Malcolm X. Let's take a look at Malcolm X also, but let's start with Lionel Messi. Here's an athlete with debilitated Mars. Does it make any sense? Well, let's actually, in Lionel Messi's chart, Mars is not the main planet. Saturn is the dominant planet in Lionel Messi's chart. So Mars is not, see, this is the case of somebody may have Mars in Cancer, but they also have 6 other planets somewhere else. So you shouldn't make a decision about who they are just on one planet and a sign. You you should at least look at the signs for the rest of the planets, at least, right? So in Lionel Messi's chart, it's more about his Saturn than it is about his Mars. His Saturn is the first lord in the 11th house, exactly opposite to the 6th lord, which is for sports, and the 9th lord, which is for blessings and success. As far as his Mars goes, his Mars is in very good conditions. Being in Cancer, yes, but in very good conditions. It is the 3rd lord in the 6th house, which first of all is ideal for Mars to be in the 6th house. Second of all, is ideal for the 3rd lord to be in the 6th house. It's ideal for masculinity to have Mars in the 6th house and or the 3rd lord in the 6th house, and his Mars in the 6th house is the 3rd lord in the 6th house. So this fact that it's in Cancer is becoming a subtext to these other things which are more dominant. Additionally, he has this very special condition where his Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is the planet that will be exalted where Mars is debilitated. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So therefore, it's a special planet that can deal with the depression of a planet. If a planet is depressed or debilitated, fallen, the planet which is exalted in that sign could change that condition if it can interact with the planet. The idea is that it would show the planet how to deal with that sign. This is technically called Nich Bhanga, which is the modification of a debilitation. So Jupiter, the planet which is exalted in Cancer, is in the 3rd house in Aries. You can't get, again, it's like really perfect. Jupiter's in the 3rd house in Aries. It's great for an athlete, and it is exactly square to his Mars. And it is exactly opposite to the midhaven of his chart. So the midhaven of his chart is being dominated by Jupiter in Aries from the 3rd house. The ascendant is being dominated by Saturn from the 11th, being aspected exactly by the 6th lord. And then his Mars is the 3rd lord in the 6th house, exactly square to Jupiter, the planet which would be exalted where it's depressed. So this is, in fact, quite a highly specific chart and shouldn't be taken as a general case of what Mars in Cancer does. Robin Williams, however, so Robin Williams has the same Jupiter-Mars relationship as Lionel Messi, which is going to not let him be ruined by a debilitated Mars. He has Jupiter exactly squared Mars, and that's significant because Jupiter is the planet that's exalted where Mars is debilitated. However, whereas with Lionel Messi, it's his 3rd lord. Mars is his 3rd lord in the 6th house, which is great for Mars. In Robin Williams' case, it's his 1st lord. It's in the 9th house, which is also great. And that's why we all know about Robin Williams. But when the 1st lord is debilitated, it does contribute. I'm sure there's other factors in the chart that are contributing to giving him a sense of depression about himself. Now, from all the musicians, I felt like looking at Lana Del Rey's chart this time. Like Robin Williams, she also has Mars as the 1st lord in the 9th house in Cancer. But like Messi, even though her Mars is the 1st lord, still Mars is not the dominant planet in her chart because she's born with Venus in Taurus, exactly opposite of her Scorpio ascendant, exactly opposite. So she has a huge Venus from Taurus influence on the chart, and Venus is really dominating her chart. And then after Venus, the most impact would be coming from Jupiter and Moon. So Mars is really kind of low in the scale, even though it is the 1st lord. So that does explain her. Again, she's not really a primary example of what Mars is like in Cancer. She was more of a primary example of what Venus would be like in Taurus. Malcolm X. This is very interesting. Especially because you can compare him with Martin Luther King. Whereas Martin Luther King was the advocate for kind of universality and reconciliation. And Martin Luther King's chart is very peaceful. But Malcolm X, on the other hand, addressed the same issues as Martin Luther King, but in the opposite manner. He wasn't reconciliatory, he was confrontational, and he wasn't desegregationalist, he was segregationalist. So he actually does have a very Mars unique Mars, and Mars being very dominant. So when you look at his chart, you do find actually that this Mars in Cancer is extremely dominant. Why? Because it is exactly opposite the ascendant. So just like Lana Del Rey actually has Venus exactly opposite to her ascendant, and therefore Venus is really the dominant planet in that chart. In Malcolm X's case, he has Mars exactly opposite to his ascendant. And so this Mars in Cancer is very, very strong in his case. If Mars is opposite to the ascendant, you know where that ascendant must be? Mars in Cancer opposite to the ascendant must be in Capricorn. So Malcolm X, a Capricorn ascendant. How does Mars fare in Capricorn? Well, it's exalted in Capricorn. So the aspect of Mars, the effect of Mars on the ascendant is quite good, though Mars in Cancer is quite difficult. So Mars in Cancer is affecting the 7th house and how he feels about people and how he wants to interact with society. But the effect that Mars in Cancer has on his Capricorn ascendant is to make him a very great individual who is remembered in history, but still very militant, very martial. Not only this, he has Jupiter in Capricorn, where it is debilitated, but Jupiter is retrogressive, which is supposed to alter the effects of the debilitation, and it's very close to the ascendant, so it's also very opposite to this Mars. So that means that the Jupiter is very strongly aspecting the Mars in Cancer, which is the condition that we've seen in Lionel Messi and Robin Williams, where it's called Nietzsche Bhanga. It's modifying the debilitation. In addition to, in Malcolm X's case, the First Lord Saturn is also very dominant in the chart. So this makes it a strong chart when the First Lord dominates. And his moon is also in Aries and is very dominant. So he's got a lot of martial and Saturn-ness to him as an individual. Now, what we do in these videos with the planets and the signs is I show you a consistent technique that you can use for any planet and any sign. And the technique is very simple. You look for where the planet symbolizes something that's very, very similar to what the sign symbolizes. And once you find that, you assess whether or not the planet and the sign are harmonious about that thing or whether they're antithetical about that thing. The dissonant resonance reveals what's complex or difficult for the native. The harmonious resonance, on the other hand, indicates what's easy, what comes natural, what's an inherent strength for the native. What I'm teaching you really is the method of how to do astrological interpretation by going down into the engine of the symbolism and comparing the parts. The actual interpretation that you should give is going to be individualized per the individual chart. So if you have person A with the moon in Scorpio and person B with the moon in Scorpio, it's not going to be exactly the same interpretation, because person B's moon might have an aspect from something and person A's moon doesn't, etc., 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 etc. But what I'm showing you in the videos is the backbone of what a planet and a sign symbolizes. And once you understand that backbone, you modify it based on the circumstances, the extraneous circumstances that are affecting an individual chart. So I hope you really like this system, not just this one video, but all the videos that we do on the planets and the signs. We'll do them all. And I hope you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of those. And I hope to see you around soon. Thank you.